Greetings. Measles and Mennonites. Go crazy. Freak out. Measles. And the internet, social media, vaccine hesitancy. Oh my God, measles. Anyway, today I listened to some NPR. Oh, wow. Sad. They actually had quote unquote kind of journalists, not really, go to West Texas and to interview people that were part of this Mennonite community and people that had gotten measles, stuff like that. So, I remember measles, early 60s, whatever, still kind of happening when I was a baby, little kid, and pretty much wiped out by the vaccine and people getting it. I think you get natural immunity when you get measles and you've had it. I think you don't need the vaccine anymore. But in fact, I think that's kind of like a big question they would ask. Have you had the measles? Or was that chicken pox? It was one of those big ones. Like they'd ask you, like, hey, have you had it yet? Okay, let's vaccinate you, And the vaccine was actually a vaccine. It actually did prevent, once you had the vaccine, you had immunity to the thing, unlike the COVID-19 quote-unquote vaccines. But the story on NPR today, there was no ability to distinguish between any vaccines. It was just like you either embrace them all wholeheartedly, you either just love the CDC and everything that they're saying, the NIH, and these institutions that basically failed us in recent history. But you either just love them, totally embrace them, and just embrace every vaccine that's ever been made. The whole vaccine schedule for all your babies and you, and I think it's up to 72 vaccines now. And also when I was young, they only gave you one vaccine at a time. Like, it's very important. We're trying to trigger your immune system. We're going to give you this kind of attenuated pathogen, and you're going to have a nice immune response to it, and then you'll be done. You'll be good. But they wouldn't load them up. They wouldn't give you like 10 vaccines at a time or stuff like that. But anyway, this NPR story today just kind of made fun of anybody who had any question about any vaccines. It lumped together the COVID-19 vaccine, the mRNA vaccine, which is a brand new platform. They lumped that together with measles vaccine, all these other vaccines, and just kind of discussed vaccine hesitancy as if people on the internet can't be trusted with their own mind, their own thoughts about things. So we just have to censor, we have to take control of this narrative, control all information that goes out there in order for people to just embrace all vaccines. And it was horrible. For anybody that has any scrutiny or any memory or mind, it was completely horrible, stupid. And part of the problem, part of why there is vaccine hesitancy now is not because of the internet or people doing their own research. It's because they were lied to. And the medical institutions, which are run by private equity, are failing them in their daily lives all the time. They can't get MRIs. They can't get imaging so that they can begin cancer treatment before they go stage 4. So a lot of people are dying from cancer because they can't get imaging. There's long wait times for imaging. They can't get in. They're not getting treatment for cancer. They're dying of cancer. There's a lot of things going on wrong with the private equity medical system. But rather than look at that, admit any of that, the NPR people just kind of decided to go ahead and just bully you more, gaslight you, that if you have any questions about vaccines or anything like that, I think definitely I would say get the measles vaccine if you haven't had the measles and you haven't had a measles vaccine, get one. It's a good one, right? Don't mess around with that. That's what I'd say. But then when it comes to anything put out by Pfizer or Moderna. Now I'm saying, hey, question it, ask about it. What is it? Do I really need it? Do you really need a shingles vaccine right now? Is shingles going around? Is shingles a thing? Do you need the pneumococcal vaccine? I think the pneumococcal vaccine is okay. I took it. I wish I would learn more about it. It didn't feel great after I got it. But, I believe in vaccines. Louis Pasteur, chickens. you know. But unfortunately, when you have a medical establishment that's completely captured by Wall Street, it tends to ruin their credibility over time. And that's bad for, I've said it before, we want people to take vaccines. We want them to have that option. And unfortunately, when you have people lying to you and gaslighting you and bullying you, it makes you less willing to listen to them or to agree with what they're saying. And so there might be a virus going around that is really deadly. A lot of things that they told us about COVID-19 turned out to be total lies. That's very unfortunate. Anyway, bad story, bad coverage, NPR today, horrible. They went on to cover Ukraine. They went on to talk about Ukraine. Of course, they never mentioned Yanukovych, the color revolution, regime change, the fact that any of the CIA, Victoria Nuland, they don't mention any of that. The history of Ukraine starts on February 2022 when Russia just kind of unprovoked invaded Ukraine, right? So that's still the case. And they were hours long about it today, about how horrible Trump is and how horrible Putin is, and how they still need to give more money to oligarchs and weapons dealers through Ukraine. Still need to keep the money gravy train going. And so that was bad news. And how peace is not, Trump's not going to achieve peace and all this kind of stuff. And how Trump's going to, try to threaten Putin now with embargo. It's kind of like the report was also really lame because in the same breath they're kind of like, oh yeah, and Trump's just kind of a big, bitch of Putin. Like he's the toady, right? But then in the next breath they're like, but now he's pushing him around with these tariffs, or threatening with tariffs or something like that. So just cognitive dissonance, lame, bad, no history, and no mention of Romania, Georgescu. In Romania, the democratically elected Georgescu, who was kind of Russia-gated and then pushed out. So Romania is having a crisis, and that wasn't even mentioned. It's right now, it's right in that area, right in that neighborhood, and they couldn't mention it all day. The NPR, I listened to NPR on a few different stations, All Things Considered, and a couple other their shows, and they basically all had the same angle about all this stuff, about Ukraine, the vaccines, and stuff like that. And it's pretty much still CIA-controlled media. Unfortunately, Donald Trump has won, but we're still CIA-run country pretty much right now. People are repeating CIA talking points all around me, all around all my friends or ex-friends here in the Bay Area would, I'm sure after hearing these the whole day of NPR, probably whatever they're doing, they were listening to some of the similar NPR I was, and I'm sure they're totally just like, oh yeah, believing that people that have thoughts about the vaccines are lame, and that's measles vaccine. The measles vaccine is on the same par. That the COVID-19 vaccine is on the same par with the measles vaccine. The measles vaccine has a proven history of being awesome. The COVID-19 vaccine has a proven history of being totally lame. In fact, people that get vaccinated exchanged COVID at a higher rate than people that were unvaccinated. The best group during COVID were people that got COVID and recovered from it. They had the best immunity if they didn't take boosters. If they took boosters, then they seemed to get sick again with COVID again. And it's kind of a numbers game. It's kind of a spike protein thing. We're not being told anything about the spike protein, but your body can only process you only have a certain amount of immunity, a certain amount of like juice to fight things. T cells get tired. I think basically vaccines can give you temporary antibodies against something that's going around, but they compromise your long-term immunity by lowering your amount of T cells. T cells are awesome immune cells that are awesome at all times against lots of pathogens. Antibodies come and go, but they equated with how many antibodies you had as kind of an equation of your total immune picture. And like I said, antibodies go up and down. Once your body knows how to make antibodies against a certain pathogen, it can make those antibodies again when it encounters that pathogen again. That's another thing they kind of didn't tell you. They're kind of trying to artificially keep those antibody numbers high, which ends up making people immunocompromised and does other things to them. When you're just bam, 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 just hitting the immune system with stuff that's probably toxic. It's not tested and it's lame, and we know this. Pfizer's they don't want to admit things, and they're lame. And the kind of basically Wall Street captured medical establishment has admitted long ago that they're trying to create recurring revenue models, monthly recurring revenue models, and things that you need to get again and again that don't really cure you. So the idea of the medical establishment now, the pharmaceutical establishment, is actually not to cure. You don't want a permanent cure to hepatitis C. You want something that you kind of have to keep coming back for. And then maybe your hep C numbers go up and down kind of thing. That's kind of what they said in their papers. They admitted all this. Celera Genomics, Paul Stamets, people writing for Moderna and different science journals. From 2010 forward, they have been genetically modifying things, gaining up viruses and genetically modifying things, and openly saying they don't want cures, they want recurring revenue. That's what they've been saying. And when they talk to their investors and stuff, when they talk honestly amongst themselves, that's what they say. We have no journalists, so we don't know any of this, and that's sad. But yep, I just had to talk about that. The Mennonites and the measles and Trump, and bad press day, horrible press day for NPR.